Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Stuff Podcast, where we talk all things Star Wars. My name is Colin.
My name is Zach.
I'm Cap. And I'm Star.
And we're here to talk about The Bad Batch. We've
Let's
been
go.
gone for a bit. We're back. We are going to break down episode 5 first. We'll kind of do a speed run, and then we'll go straight into episode 6 and 7. Are we excited? Like,
Let's
I can't believe that we got 2 episodes today.
There's a lot to talk about today, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. I mean, these are some of the best episodes in the entire show, in my opinion. So there's 3 of them just right in a row. So it's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, absolutely. So for episode 5, to me, it was really an episode about bringing people back together. It was a reunion episode. It was kind of giving Crosshair more of a redemption, and kind of bringing him back to his brothers, which everyone's been anticipating and waiting for. And the episode's title is called The Return, so I just loved all the Crosshair stuff. Sorry, Cap, I know that's a soft that's kind of a tough subject for you, but yeah, no, I just loved everything about that. So I'm gonna let Star lead this one. Of just talking about of just everything in that episode.
Well, I mean, to condense it, because Colin, wants to go quick on this one, we could just say, Crosshair's clearly the best character. We all saw it in episode 5. It continues on. So kind of the main overarching theme of the episode is we go back to the planet where the outpost takes place in season 2, where we first got introduced to Mayday, where Crosshair shoots an Imperial officer, and we see his switch really leaving the Empire, and then of course everything that ensues after that. And so it was really cool to bring the Batch back to that planet. Of course, they're going back there to see if they can get a data pad of Nala Se's to work, and they can find some information about Tantus. And they end up fighting a worm. And that's kind of the summary of the whole episode. But I'd say, the things that really stuck out is the imagery of bringing that whole arc of Crosshair's initial redemption story, and then in season 2, and then not ending it, but really getting him back with the Batch and kind of cementing it in place on that same planet, I think is probably, it was full circle. So that was kind of the summary. Yeah. I have more to say.
Well, poetry, everything rhymes.
I know, right? But I'm curious, what were your guys' favorite parts from that episode?
I'm going to say something that will probably spark excitement in Zach, but the snow worm was a big reference to Dune that happened the week before.
I was just saying the same thing, man.
That 100% was put in there to be like, hey, here's a Dune reference, and that's the first thing that caught my eye. I was like, wow, okay. So so that was pretty cool, but honestly, of having Crosshair go back, and you just see how much his time in the Slammer has really changed him, and how he's the Empire doesn't treat loyalty like I do, which he talks more about that in the other episodes. But you really see that in episode 5. Yeah. So I loved that we're slowly getting into that place of where Hunter and him kind of lash things out and talk things out, and then you see him in 6 and 7 of where it feels like old times, and it's fantastic. So I really enjoyed the episode. Zach?
Yeah, I really liked how it kind of starts off with Omega waking up in the Marauder, and it's all comfy and cozy, and we're all kind of like, okay, where's Crosshair? And he's out doing target practice with AZ, and we kind of see that he's, I don't know, there's all kinds of theories going on right now about, is his clone genetic material depleting or fading or wearing off? I don't know, his mutation, is that kind of going, I don't know, my brain's a little shot right now, but my terminology is not quite there, but I think you guys are tracking with me. But he's not the marksman he once was, to some extent. And it's cool to kind of see that. And sure, I wish he could still hit every shot I know he could or can, but I don't know if it's mental block. I don't know if it's kind of like Avatar Last Airbender, unlock your chakras or whatever it was. But I thought that was really cool. I also loved the banter between Crosshair and Hunter.
Yes.
Family of all boys, and I fight with my brothers like that. So I get it. I mean, I'm not trying to kill my brothers, and they're not trying to kill me, but it's kind of that brotherly like love, you could say. There's the back and forth pushing at the shoulders and like trying to kind of one up each other, and I don't know. And I'm glad they had that in there because I felt it would have been a little strange if they just welcomed him back without raising an eyebrow.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all happy he's back.
Mhm.
But yeah, the Dune reference, that was pretty sweet. I like how they talked about tech a little bit, kind of, oh, this would be easier if we had tech. We haven't seen how Crosshair learned about tech dying. Have we?
I'm really curious about that.
Yeah.
No.
So I was kind of curious on, I mean, there was a shot in the trailer where he's walking all mopey on Tantus where we thought, oh, that could be him learning about tech dying, but it really wasn't correlated. But I don't know. I'm curious to see how that kind of plays out as the show ends here, how big of a void there is without tech.
Well, Star and I have some theories about tech. Because in 6 and 7, which we're gonna segue into that, that is like a full clone, like beautiful thing of just 2 episodes, and we end up going back to Teth. Commander Wolf is back. We end up seeing Rex again and Hauser, and we kind of get some preferences to the clone rebellion from Legends. So it's all there, and those episodes were just fantastic.
Yeah. I will say before we move on from episode 5, because that one was my favorite one out of the 3, honestly. I just want to echo what Zach said about the like sibling dynamic between Crosshair and Hunter. I think that was probably my favorite like overall part. Because like obviously my sibling, we fought our entire time through childhood. And so watching that is just a very fun I don't know, I feel like when siblings watch this show they can be like, oh my gosh, I get it. But I also really like how Crosshair, like, even though he's clearly changed his mind about the Empire, he hasn't lost his like absolute horrible personality of just being an absolute jerk. And like that has got to be one of my favorite things about it, just because you get introduced to him in season 7 of Clone Wars, and he's a jerk. He gets punched by Captain Rex. He's clearly like not a nice guy, and I like that you don't lose his character just by having him be redeemed. Like that's a very fun like I was curious what they would do with that, because like he's always been a jerk. Are they gonna like make him like not so much anymore? And like the fact that he just comes back and he's still like him and Hunter are still bickering, he's still throwing shade. It was really funny. I'm glad they did that.
I'm going ahead just a little bit, but he's kind of when Omega and him are talking, like, you're just like Hunter's like, oh, I'm much worse than Hunter. Yeah.
Oh man, but we end up going to episode 6, and we don't know the name of the planet. I don't think, but basically it was kind of a carry on from the storyline from season 2 with Senator Chuchi. She has not she's not given up, but they've also hinted at the rebellion, which I thought was really interesting.
That was
so because then I guess that kind of ties into Andor in some way, but from my understanding, it was that that the character Luthen and Mon Mothma were kind of started it. So maybe Senator Chuchi and some other people tried to start it before, and it didn't go well. So and then we go to where we are now in Andor, and then they're like, you know what? How about we try again? So that's kind of my kind of perception of what's going on there. But we end up getting Hauser. We end up getting a clone called Samson, which I think we saw at the end of season 2, and then we have Rex. He's not wearing his pauldron, which is weird. I'm still getting used to that.
It's odd.
Yeah.
But we get to see him in his nice tarp, which
Yeah.
is always
Yeah.
you never know there was a clone under there. Yeah,
That's
I
true.
always loved that.
How far into the timeline are we? Because I was kind of thinking what you were saying about the rebellion, Colin.
Yeah.
And the Ahsoka novel takes place about a year after
Yeah.
Order 66, right?
Mhm.
Because if we're past a year out
Yeah.
at that point, maybe we won't see Bail as much because he's trying to plant stuff with Ahsoka and
Yeah.
work with her if that timeline lines up.
Yeah.
Potentially.
There's also some things which you've got Tales of the Jedi, right? And that
Yeah.
kind of
Mhm.
retconned some things from the
Yeah.
Ahsoka novel.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So things are changing, all the time. For example, we've got Ventress that's in this show.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We haven't
Yeah.
seen her yet, but
Yeah.
for a long time, we all thought that she was no longer canon. Well, not canon, but that she was no longer alive. So the
Yeah.
fact that we saw her in the trailer, we were
Alive
just
canon.
wait, what?
Yeah.
Was just kind of crazy. So, and anything can really happen. But
Yeah.
they are having a meeting with an old separatist, and
Yep.
then all of a sudden a sleeper agent comes in. He tries to take them out. He does not succeed. We don't know what his name is or anything, but that kind of hints at that they are getting into that kind of dark place of where they are going to try and shut down this first rebellion, this clone rebellion. And then we go back to Teth, which was awesome.
That was so
because
cool.
Yeah.
we haven't seen this since the Clone Wars TV show, and the first time we saw it was in the Clone Wars movie.
It's
And then,
iconic. Like,
And it's
I
the
don't know
same
about you guys, you
monastery,
probably
right?
recognize
Yeah, it
it.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Immediately. We were just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
ooh.
The shot from the trailer had me tweaking. I was
Yes.
all geeked
Yeah.
about it for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's so interesting that like Rex picks out to go back to one of the places that was like one of the very like first missions
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
he's on with Anakin and Ahsoka. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, nobody would ever think to look for you
Yeah.
there. I mean, why would you go back there?
Yeah.
Of all
Right.
places,
That is, and symbolically, I don't know if they did this on purpose, but that mission, I think everyone in the 501st, but 3 people were killed.
yeah.
Back in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of an interesting place to like go back to, and then
Mhm.
it does kind of get decimated. Not to jump
Yeah.
ahead,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Is that what they found the Twilight in the
Yes.
movie?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
What if there's another one sitting around?
know.
No.
Another
I
bucket
don't know.
bolts.
I'm hopeful. I love that
Yeah.
thing. I'd love to
Yeah.
see it again, even though
Me
it
too.
died. But
So I think the first thing that popped in my head was, where's Stinky? Where's Jabba's
Yeah.
son?
Yeah.
Like how
Yeah.
come like
Nowhere
we
nearby.
never saw him again? Yeah, I know. I just but I loved how when they did pan to Teth and we actually do see the old monastery, we do get a heavy clone theme, like of just kind of going through the halls, and it's just
Yep.
like this is
Yeah.
where it began.
Yep.
This is where the TV show began, like
Yes.
of just the whole Clone Wars genre.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was so cool to like kind of hear that and kind of see them kind of not go back in time, but just but just reminisce.
Yeah.
And then we learned that the sleeper agent was not just going after Senator Chuchi. They were going after Omega. And then we go back to Tantus, and then you have Scorch. I don't know why the other Delta Squad members aren't there. Hopefully,
It's
we'll find out
forever a
soon.
question.
It's a mystery.
Forever a question.
Yep. And we run into this other sleeper that is now talking to Scorch, and he has a very different movement than any other sleeper. I
He
will say
does.
that. Yeah.
Sorry.
And-
I just have to say real fast, when he's talking to
Yeah.
Scorch the very first time, he says, "Why did you activate me?"
Yes.
what? And that was interesting because it gives you the idea that this agent has not been on the field before.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, yeah, that's really what it sounds like. It sounds like he hasn't been on the field before. Maybe he's new, maybe whatever. And so that is kind of some of the speculation that gets thrown in, is like they put in the detail of, oh, why am I being activated? Like,
Yeah.
I was not on the field. I was kept away somewhere.
makes
Right.
me think of the Dark Troopers, how they're all kind of like sitting along the wall, like
Yeah.
ready to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's living beings versus
So
robots.
to
but-
me, it was that whole program is very similar to the Winter Soldier program from
Yeah.
from Marvel and stuff.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
And again, it it would kind of make sense if it was Tech. I think a lot of people would be excited. We never
Who
did see
hell
the
is
body.
Tech? Yeah.
The only thing that we, really saw of his remains was his goggles, but
Mhm.
that could have just kind of thrown, everyone off, including the audience. And
Yeah.
then you've also kind of got this fixation of
Yeah.
the sleeper where he's not really following orders.
Yep.
He's not
Mm-mm.
really listening.
No.
That was Tech's last line of saying,
Yep.
when do we ever follow?
Yep.
So think about it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in my opinion, it's Tech just of the way that he moves and runs and stuff.
I know. He runs like
really
Tech.
Yes.
He does. Yeah.
So that would be really cool to see. I think my other theory was that it could be Commander Cody because we don't know what happened to Commander Cody.
Yeah.
And I was really annoyed that we didn't see him in
I
this.
know.
Like, come
I
on.
know.
You tease
Yeah.
him in one episode in season 2
Yeah.
and then boom, he's gone.
Well,
So
and just the
Yeah.
fact that Cody, and I mentioned this to Colin earlier today, but the fact that Cody in episode was it 3, I believe, yes, episode 3 of season 2, at the end of it, they tell Crosshair he's gone missing, he's disappeared, but they don't
Yeah.
say he escaped,
Yeah.
he's defected necessarily. It's like, oh, he's gone.
AWOL.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
in some way, I'm like, okay, is he actually gone, or did he get yeeted to Tantus? I don't know. It's possible.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
This is a good question. Can I
all
win?
right. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I
Cap,
have
go
a
ahead.
question about clones. They had the Order 66 chip. Why didn't they have a self-destruct
Ooh.
chip installed once they served the purpose of the Emperor? I mean, my opinion on this one is that, it's the Empire. They could probably just kill them. They don't really need to go
Yeah.
to all the work to take them to a lab, install a new chip,
Mhm.
and have a self-destruct. But
There's another thing to be said that I think might answer this maybe less in the Star Wars universe and maybe more in the show writing universe,
mm,
which is that the chips were invented in Clone Wars. In
yeah,
Attack of the
yeah.
Clones, there was no conception of chips,
Yep.
and in Revenge of the Sith, there was no conception of chips, and so they
Hmm.
kind of add chips
Yeah.
by having Clone Wars, which is a
Yeah.
really cool
Yeah.
thing that they do. But as far as why it didn't happen, it might just be that they're like, oh, we want these chips to make them go crazy, but yet
Yeah.
that's a good question. Why wouldn't they have
Yeah.
just installed them at the start? And
Yeah.
maybe it's because, well, now that they're trying to make sense of a story that they already have 2 bookends for, it just doesn't fit. But
But
that's
what
that's
if-
from a
It's
writing perspective, I guess.
Good, but in
Mm.
universe too, let's say, so why not install it from the start? But I mean, hypothetically, you don't need them. When Obi-Wan's on Kamino in episode 2, they're saying they follow every order without question. You would never need a chip to self-destruct. You wouldn't from the beginning. You probably, you could, hypothetically, it's dark, but you could probably tell them okay. You could.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're
Supposed to follow every order.
they follow
Yeah.
every order. So
What if
Yeah.
Palpatine intended to use the clones as his army, but kind of changed his mind and was able to use the clones as kind of let old things die and let me show you how the Empire can really rise above this, and kind of change
Mhm.
his mind or use that image
Yeah.
to sway the people. I don't know.
yeah,
So I agree with that because we actually learn that as they keep using Jango Fett's DNA throughout time, it starts to dissolve, and
Yeah.
clones get more of a personality than what the early clones had. So I think maybe that's where the Emperor got more of the idea of these clones aren't going to keep following orders forever, and they also are going to age out at some point. So we're going to have to start building an actual army and bring people who really care about the cause of the Empire. Long live the Empire. So it makes sense that eventually they would kind of get out of it. And plus doing the whole, self-destruct chip thing seems like a lot of paperwork, and the Emperor doesn't have time to fill out all that paperwork. So I mean, come on. But yeah, so we then have Echo, Hunter, and the crew. They are on their way back from the planet, and they get contacted by Rex to go back to Teth. They end up getting there, and we see Rex and all of them reunite, and Hauser just walks up forward, and he's like, I've got a score to settle. And you're like, oh, that's right, because Crosshair really screwed over Hauser, and he got most of his men killed. So it makes sense, of why he would be like so upset, and Hauser just not trust him like off the bat at all. And how did we feel about Hauser's behavior towards Crosshair?
Go ahead, guys.
You know what I think. Everybody knows what I think. I mean, if you don't like Crosshair, then I don't like you. So
All right.
Hauser was okay, but now he's not. Okay, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. It makes perfect sense. I mean, Crosshair got all his people kind of killed, so I mean, checks out that he'd be distrusting. I honestly was a little bit surprised that Rex wasn't more distrusting. I was actually like the whole time kind of waiting for like Rex to like want to question him, and then I really liked how I really liked how Rex ended up asking Omega the questions, because you see that he still has those questions. He's still like, he's not gonna let it go. He's not gonna just take him back and be like, sure, this is great. He's still gonna ask his questions. And so I liked seeing kind of the Hauser Rex juxtaposition with Crosshair and seeing how they differently handle it. And Rex is like, hey, as long as I get my questions answered, I'll ask the kid. That's cool.
And Rex trusts Echo. Echo's out there, with the Bad Batch, making sure things are fine, and he's gonna trust him. If Echo says, this guy's fine, then, and I think he even says that in the episode, then I guess he's fine.
And Rex has that, I guess, history of serving with the Bad Batch on Skako Minor, and maybe if they didn't have that, maybe he would have felt more like Hauser. I don't know, but I think Rex was very much like, okay, guys, we got to stop fighting like brothers, right? Kind of that same idea again. And then we got to move forward as a collective team because we're going to need all the help we can get. And to some extent, I think that's a good mentality. But at the same time, I mean, you can always never trust everybody all the time, right? Even though we all want to trust Crosshair. But he'd be the one not to trust. I hate to say it.
No, it's true. I agree.
And then as that plot is happening, we have the sleeper agent. He gets to Teth. His ship is awesome, by the way.
It is
really interesting.
That ship's a very interesting design. It doesn't. It seems very old, and I think in episode 3 we like kind of got into more of like the Sith kind of cloning stuff, and that ship to me just kind of screams like old Sith.
So
it does,
like old Sith technology. So maybe it's an old Sith ship, and they just happened to have them on Tantus, and they were like, you know what, here you go. It could be from the old Republic era. Who knows? But he lands on Teth, and then he hops off his ship and he starts running. And to me, that was a big indication, like, of just the way that he was running. I was like, that's gotta be tech. It has to be tech. And then he ends up scaling that entire cliff, like just to get up there. Right. Yeah, exactly. And he is putting different detonators on the ships to blow them up and stuff. He gets inside, he finds Omega, and then all hell breaks loose after he kills the other sleeper that they captured earlier. They're all fighting, and then I think it was Samson that grabbed the flamethrower, right?
I
think so.
Okay. Because from the lighting at first, I thought it was Hauser, and then after everything went down, I thought they just kind of graced over that, like, oh, Hauser's dead.
He's dead.
I was like, wow. But we then get the ending shot of Commander Wolf showing up, which we knew he was going to. It was very exciting to see him again. But he's not just alone. He's with other clones, which I was kind of surprised with. And not just clones, also new stormtroopers as well, including 2 Republic commandos. So I thought that was very, very exciting, just because we haven't really seen clones in a while, like throughout the season. It's mainly been stormtroopers, so the fact that we got to see more clones again was super cool. And then we get into episode 7, and
I have a quick question before we go over. So I guess this applies to all 3 of you guys. When Crosshair was talking about the, I guess you could say, like, the Clone X program, the Winter Soldier program, whatever you want to call it, Did you guys think he was talking about Inferno Squad at all? Because he's like, there's a secret force group on Tantus, and I don't know.
No.
Part of me was like, these guys could, the fact that I thought about that was kind of brought up through Tantus. Like, if he didn't mention Tantus, I probably wouldn't have thought of Inferno Squad. But I know you guys talk about it all the time. That's where I was going. But
you're talking about Inferno Squad from like Star Wars Battlefront Inferno Squad?
Well, sorry, not Inferno Squad.
We need
Delta
Deltas.
Squad. Sorry, my bad.
Oh,
My bad.
Okay.
You're
I
good.
was
Sorry.
like,
I'm new to this.
that is way down the timeline.
Yep. Nope.
I wish he was. I think that I honestly think they're not going to show us the rest of Delta Squad,
They're
sadly.
Yeah.
not.
But
Yeah.
I
Bad.
wish he was talking about that. I really think he was just talking about like the whole program in general. That
Yeah.
there's, like,
Yeah.
this
Because I was
secret-
thinking of you guys at first. I'm like,
Yeah.
they talked about that, but it made
Right.
sense that it wasn't. But I was
You
going
know what?
towards
I
Commandos.
hope so.
Well,
Zach.
I was
really hope so.
hoping
But-
that all
Headcanon.
those, clone sleeper agents, like one of them would be one of the Deltas or something.
Well, but I
Yeah.
want to throw this
No
out
way.
here. I watch everything with captions because I'm an old woman, and so and I
Got more.
hear very well, and so I have to read all the captions. And when the clone sleeper agent talks, his caption is Clone Commando rather than just Clone X or whatever. It says Clone Commando, and then it'll bloop. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that is
because I was
interesting.
like, what does it mean? And so
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe Zach, I don't know. So
Yeah.
maybe they're pointing to.
Sorry, I had the wrong terminology, but that's what I
No,
wanted to
you're
ask you
fine.
guys before we
You're
move on to
fine.
the next
No.
one. But,
I
yeah.
was just, so I really thought it was interesting having them talk about that whole program and filling in some plot points that we were wondering about, like what was Crosshair doing on Tantus, and now
Yeah.
we know they were trying to get him
Yeah.
into this program.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that to me clicked so many things together. It was like, of course they were, and of course it wasn't working. He's defective,
Yeah.
but like it
Does
just
that mean Tech couldn't be one then by that logic?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, and I don't know if it's that he couldn't do one because he's defective, as in because of his head, he's defective
yeah.
in his mind, or is it because of his tremor? Like he's
Sure.
defective, like he's not useful anymore. Like what he says earlier in the
I see what
where
you
it's
mean.
like,
Yeah.
I'm not maybe I'm not as valuable anymore, and
Yeah.
he's not as valuable to them anymore, and so is it? He might just be like physically defective at this point.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting because having now knowing that they were trying to put him through that program and seeing him just have that knowledge of what was happening,
Yeah.
and I'll be like, oh, you should ask him.
Yeah. Totally.
And really pulling the is he still a bad guy? Like we don't
Yeah.
know. That was some good. That was a good scene.
Yeah. Cool.
So as they're leaving the monastery, that ship that they had at the bottom, that was a very interesting ship. I feel like there have been a lot of interesting
It
ships.
was so strange.
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, no, man, again, seeing Commander Wolf again was so cool. I
Yeah.
was so pumped to see him. And I remember in Celebration London of when they showed us the trailer, I was sitting next to our other co-host Josh, and like everything's going through, and then you see Wolf for like 0.3 seconds, and I was just like, oh my god, let's go, because I love Plo Koon. Plo Koon was such a great Jedi, and I don't think he was up in the air, so I was curious of what was happening with Commander Wolf during Order 66, but man, it was so cool to see him. And they end up crashing the ship and into the jungle because of that. Sleeper agent has kind of an obsession with kind of getting the job done.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious. Like if it doesn't end up being Tech, they really hinted at it like a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
I just don't know why they'd spend so much time following him. The camera was on him the whole time. You see that he's limping around. You see him like almost take a shot at Omega, and he doesn't. And it makes sense that he doesn't. But you're still going like, but what if it's Tech? Maybe that makes sense. So there's a lot of things. They follow him a lot.
Yeah,
they do, and that was something I was like, they devoted so much time to him in these 2 episodes that it kind of has to be someone
Yeah.
that we care about, just because
Yeah.
like they've devoted a ton of time
Yeah.
to it. Like for it to just be like, oh, and this is clone
Yeah.
Random,
clone
yeah,
Jim that we
yeah,
don't know. Like
yeah.
I don't think
Clone
it's gonna
Jim, come on.
Clone Jim, yeah, everybody knows Jim.
Um,
Jim the clone. So I really think that it's got to be somebody that we know. It's got to be someone that we care about because of just the time. And also watching him limp really reminded me of Tex limp from episode 2 of season 2
yeah.
when he got
interesting.
hurt and broke his leg. And like watching him kind of hobble that way, I was like, that looks like Tex hobble. I know it's like random, but I was just like, it really does. So I would not be surprised.
I think the other indicator to me was he was spending a lot of time on his arm pad, like
Yeah, he
of typing
was.
the buttons.
Yeah.
That's what Tech used to do a lot too.
Right.
And I know that's kind of like a standard like clone thing, like, oh hey, I've got buttons on my thing, but
Yeah,
that
but
was a main
was
part of
obsessive.
Tech's thing.
Yep.
And he was mainly doing that throughout these 2
Yeah.
episodes.
Yeah, he
that's
was.
right.
So-
Yep. That's
I've got my credits on it being Tech. I got
do
a
too.
strong feeling it's Tech. So man, here is hoping, but we're in the jungle and we kind of get that older brother vibe from Crosshair of where he's kind of giving Mega direction, and as Zach like said before, like that whole scene was just kind of, I think Crosshair is feeling more comfortable being part of the group again.
Yeah.
And him and Omega kind of created that stronger bond that I don't think that he felt from the beginning, like of the rest of the of Clone Force 99 felt in season 1. So I think that them being in prison together and them spending more time together,
that's for sure.
I think Crosshair really developed more of that Hunter and Wrecker and all of them felt throughout the first 2 seasons.
Well, and then she's got that toothpick at the beginning, which was
I know that was
Yes.
so funny.
Yes.
Yeah, and she did. She was playing with a knife like Hunter was. It was it season 1.
Yes.
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what else she picks up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that. And then they, end up getting tracked down. They're on the run. They're in the jungle. And then there ends up being a firefight. I loved the whole, not everyone in that group spent that much time like with each other, but they all work together so well.
Well, they're trained to.
Yeah.
You can see it. Yep.
Yeah. And I loved how, I can't think of the creature's name, and I know people will be upset about me.
Badger?
But yes.
Yeah.
Thatcher also found her spot on the team. Like,
oh yeah,
I think because of her and Wrecker, we're just going like full force, like in that entire firefight.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. How do we feel about this kind of battle compared to all of the other battles that we've gotten so far?
Too short.
Yeah, I mean, is this considering like the knife fight with Crosshair?
I was about to ask that,
yeah, because that was sweet.
That
was really
sick.
really cool. I mean, you could play the Winter Soldier comparison all day, like with Cap and Bucky fighting with the knife in that movie. But it's, I don't know. I didn't think they'd kill off Crosshair that way, but I was kind of I was a little concerned. Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't.
If it
was convincing.
If it wasn't for the shots in the trailer where we kind of see his armor in some other different shots that we haven't seen yet in the show, I would have been like, oh no, is he dead? That sequence, like the waterfall fight,
that was especially beautiful. Like the way they framed it. It was like it reminded me of not Endgame. Yeah, it is Endgame. Where like Natasha and it was such a beautiful scene.
It was really beautiful.
Waterfall and like the stars and stuff in the background. I'm like, oh no, this is a death scene. Like that's what this is. But it wasn't.
It was that fight was really good. That was definitely one of my favorite parts of these episodes.
And then Hauser helped him up. He, a handful of them did, but he was the first one to extend a hand out to him and get him up. And I like that. Just the little things of saying, okay, it's not like we're 100% cool, but you're on my side. You're my brother. I'll help you up like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like in these
He
episodes that the first, so you got episode 5 where he's kind of accepted back into the batch, but then you kind of need these ones to show that other clones are also willing to be like, okay, you were with the Empire, but all right,
Yeah.
we'll take you back too. So I think Hauser doing that is kind of it almost kind of stands in for other clones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the other thing about Hauser is that he kind of changes his attitude towards Crosshair as he kind of sees his relationship of Crosshair's relationship with Omega.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of nice because I think that Hauser had a lot of doubts, like off the bat, just because of that one moment, and
Yeah.
then he's wait, I do see the change, and that kind of shows you that not all clones like had that. I think Hauser is a fine example where there were a lot of clones after Order 66 of where they were like, I'm still loyal to the Empire,
Yeah.
and then Crosshair is like a mix of those two, of
Yeah.
where he was, but then he saw the Empire for what they were, when
Yeah.
other clones saw what the Empire for what it was, but they still continue to serve it anyway. So
Yeah.
I think that's where Hauser kind of relates to Crosshair in a way. And I
Mhm.
think that's why he kind of lets those feelings go. I think it's still there. I just think he's more at the understanding point now.
Yeah.
But after the whole scene of where they're fighting in the water, and then we think the sleeper agent is dead. Did we actually think he like died from that fall? Like, no.
It was a
We
small
see him crawl
waterfall.
out, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, there were 2 falls, right? So there was the first one where he fell, and then the second one was like a larger fall.
Yeah,
So
but
at
they
that
killed him
point,
after that,
yeah.
getting back
So
up. Yeah.
yeah. But they end up getting to the point of where Echo was supposed to be. He wasn't there. Instead, Commander Wolf shows up. He comes down, and then they kind of have a spat where Rex hasn't seen Wolf since the end of the war.
Yeah.
So they kind of have a reunion. It's very unknown if they'll end up being in a firefight or not, or they'll end up giving up. But Captain Rex kind of gives Commander Wolf a reminder of who he was and what the Republic stood for. And then Echo, as late as he is, he finally shows up. He comes in, and then Wolf is kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna let you go. We are like, we'll probably fight another day, and then they end up getting on the ship and they leave. And then the clone commando is like, hey, how come you just let them go? They're traitors. And Wolf replies, well, they're clones. They are brothers.
Yeah.
We at least have to give them that. And that shows you that Wolf is probably going to have the same revelation that that Crosshair had, that Commander Cody had, of where it's like, yes, we are still soldiers, but do we need to serve this empire? This empire is no longer the Republic. So that ends there. I don't think it's the last time that we'll see Commander Wolf, because we still have a long way to go. But then we cut to the sleeper agent, climbs out of the water. They're alive. I hated that we didn't see them like press on their thing to open the mask or something. I was so frustrated with that.
Yeah. I was gonna say, one of the interesting things too about that ending for Wolf right there is like, we assume he's gonna he will at some point have to end up with Rex and Gregor because of Rebels, but we also know from that Rebels episode that he is gonna turn people into the Empire in Rebels, because he is the one that contacts the Empire. He feels bad about it, but he does it. And so I'm really curious if they're gonna hint at that at all in Bad Batch. Like, we've brought him up, he's still with the Empire right now. But are we going to hint at like, okay, maybe he'll join the good guys kind of, but is he going to be really hesitant? Like, are we going to hint at the fact that later in Rebels, he is actually the one that contacts the Empire and gets people in trouble, because he is that kind of hesitant one, which I like that.
Yep. So and then we kind of get into the final scene of where they're on the ship, and Rex and Hunter have a conversation of where they have to find out of why why Omega is so important to the Empire. And this is gonna with that information, this is going to keep Omega safe. What do you think is going to be the answer? Because we know that she has, I think they said that she does have a high M count, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they talk
Yeah.
about it.
No, it's actually not that she has a high one. It's that when they transfer,
Yeah.
it doesn't degrade. So we
Right.
actually don't know if it's high. We know that it doesn't degrade.
Okay.
So that's what's kind of out to.
Said the scientist.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's Star Wars science. Okay.
Is she
Yeah.
not valuable anymore in the sense of having like the pure genetic material of Jango Fett?
You think
Yeah.
so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
then
but
that kind of takes that element out of it. But
Yeah. No, I think she is.
Mm.
Yeah, I think. I mean,
Yeah. Because she's one of the originals. Because if they'd had
Yeah.
Boba
Yeah.
Fett, they would have been able to keep cloning him.
yeah.
in the
Right.
Clones, which was a storyline, and oh god, I don't remember what it was in. Maybe a comic. But
Yeah. I'd love
They-
to see him show
yeah.
up. That'd be so sick.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
yes, please.
Because
So-
Daniel Logan was back already. Bring him back.
I know.
And maybe he recorded lines for Boba while he was there.
That
Who
would be
knows?
dope.
Yeah, so for the most part, clones really didn't know exactly of what an M count was.
Yeah.
But Rex hinted at that he knew what it was, and I think it's because he did spend a lot of time with different Jedi, and it must have come across. So eventually, I could see him maybe reaching out to Ahsoka and being like, "Hey, listen, this has been mentioned. I remember this being mentioned during the Clone Wars. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate on this?" And then maybe we might have a Ahsoka cameo. I want to complain
Yeah.
if Ashley X.
I wouldn't
That
either.
would be dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we'll probably see the next couple episodes will probably be the batch trying to figure out, why they want Omega,
Yeah.
what they want with Omega, how dangerous is it? Because, you see Hunter being super hesitant to throw his squad back
Yeah.
into let's now go, I don't know, assault Tantus again. Because
Yeah.
last time we tried to think
Yeah.
about assaulting Tantus, we lost a member. And so, and you see that hesitation. So I bet, kind of following the advice from Rex, he'll probably start to try to hesitantly look into what they
Yes.
might want from Omega.
Yeah.
And we'll probably see an episode or two where they're following that storyline. But
Yeah. We also got to
Yeah.
think about how the bounty hunters from the trailer will play into the story. How
Yes.
there's a Fee. I mean, Fee's going to come back. Ventress is still a huge lingering piece of the puzzle. I thought she was going to show up. In
Yeah.
all honesty, in these two episodes,
Oh,
just because I mean,
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. That seems like a cool mid-season
Yep.
Yeah.
event, I guess you could
Yeah.
call it. But
in the
I
setting.
trust it. I trust it. If it's a different,
Yeah.
way to
Yeah.
bring her in, I'm all for
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
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 We definitely have a lot to look forward to, and
Yeah.
this is going all the way into May, so we still have
Yeah.
a while.
I know we have
That's
we have
crazy.
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
keep it coming.
yeah. And we, oh man, we still have the entire, man. Yeah, no, I was gonna say we still have to see Ventress, we still have to see Cad Bane, we have to see Fennec Shand. There's probably going to be some type of cameo from Boba Fett. We'd be surprised, but
I hope so.
Oh man.
kind of going back to my theory about Ahsoka showing up, because
Yeah.
Ventress is there, I could potentially seeing Ahsoka coming up, because they didn't have like a friendship. It was more of like a
Mutual
an understanding during
Yeah.
season 5.
Mhm.
So to me, it would be like, it would be interesting to see them kind of meet up again. And to me, Ahsoka's kind of in the background in this,
Yeah.
with Senator Organa kind of getting everything together too.
Yeah.
So maybe we won't see her in a full fight, but maybe just like a small cameo being like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm behind the scenes. I'm doing stuff."
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would make sense to me. But yeah, no, we still have a long road to go. We have so many more storylines, probably new planets to go to. I'm very excited. And we could probably see Quinlan Voss as well. Who knows? I'm just excited just to get more lore in this time period,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
this is when the Empire is in its prime. So
Mm.
by the end of the show, we will probably see like the full Stormtrooper, like
Yeah. I was just
TK
gonna
I
ask
hope
that.
so,
We see-
yeah.
I think
Original
we see it.
trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I'm excited.
Yeah, I
Um,
will say that one of the things I was like, I wouldn't say disappointed, because I like these episodes a lot, but a lot of the shots of clones fighting in numbers from the trailer were seen in this episode. So there was a couple different
That's right.
shots from the trailer that I was like, maybe this is the giant clone rebellion, where you
Mhm.
see clones kind of running with fire in the background. They've
Yeah.
got purple paint, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, cool. And I saw it in this episode, and I was like, oh no.
Right.
Now I can't look forward to that scene.
Yeah.
What is
As
what
an
is do
assault,
we,
yeah,
can we
yeah.
know that there's going to be an assault? Like I
Well,
assume
there's
there
gotta
is.
be. There will be.
Yeah, but
Or an
you know,
attempt, yeah.
or an attempt. There's got to be something, but still, like having seen that scene, it made me be like, "Ooh, I hope we're not like losing some hopeful more
Yeah.
large
Clever
clone
trailer
battles
editing.
later." Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the other theory that Star and I were talking about earlier too was, which I really hope this isn't true, but I could see it happening just for story wise, is that if the sleeper agent is not Tech, that it would be Cody, and they would end up fighting, and then maybe Captain Rex ends up, he ends up getting a good shot, and then they take the mask off, and he finds out it's Cody, and then that's what breaks him into like, okay, I need to go into exile, and then that's how he goes with Gregor and Wolf and Star Wars Rebels, and then that's how he ends up there, because he's like, I need time away from the war, I can't fight anymore, I just killed one of my best friends, this is very devastating to me, I can't do this anymore. So
that would be very Empire of the Empire to take Cody and just throw him in a room and wipe his brain and stuff.
Because Star also pointed out to me saying that they did not say that he escaped in season 2, that he disappeared. So who knows? I really hope I'm wrong, because I don't want to see that, because I would be so sad.
I just want some closure. But I don't know if I want it that way.
You don't know if you want that closure.
Yeah. Umbara Part 2.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Sorry, guys.
No, it's okay.
Man. Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. From a scale from 1 to 10, how do we rate each episode? Of 5, 6, 7.
We gotta define the scale first. A scale for Bad Batch episodes, or a scale for for just Bad Batch episodes. For me, all 3 of them are 10s. Just considering Bad Batch as a whole, all 3 seasons, there's been some fun, but a lot of filler episodes in season 2, season 1 that don't quite stand up to the plot heavy ones. And having all of these be pretty plot heavy, following a lot of the clones that we really like, I think they've all stood up really well.
I'm with you, Star. I just love how plot driven this whole season has been. With that being said, hopefully the next one will still be going with the plot. I don't mind them going on some adventure. I know there's a scene in one of the trailers where a crocodile pulls like some space crocodile pulls one of them underwater. So I don't know. Maybe they're like, hey, I'll go fishing, and then that happens. I don't know, but like
it could be part of the plot. You don't know.
Yes,
you never know.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I give all these episodes a 10. I thought that they were fantastic. They were plot driven. We ended up going back to Teth. We ended up seeing all these really cool clones. Captain Rex. We got more time with Rex, which is fantastic, and hopefully we'll be seeing more of him going forward. So yeah.
And these episodes also resolved a major story plot in 3 of the seasons, which has been what happens, does Crosshair ever come back to the Batch?
Right.
Which that's a huge question to be answered in these episodes. So.
Yeah. I think 10, 10, 10. Yeah.
That's cool. And my bad saying like I do 8, 8, 9, like what this Facebook user's saying, but that doesn't mean I dislike it, but it's I don't know. I'm really hoping, I know we didn't talk about this a whole lot, but I want to see Darth Vader show up, because it makes me think of the line from the trailer, like do whatever you need to do to, figure this out, and we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
that would be dope.
So like a year ago or so, Matt Lantern was in an interview, and this was after Tales of the Jedi. And someone asked him, You know, are you done with the Anakin Skywalker character, or are you thinking of coming back? And he's like, I did do something else with Anakin. I can't say what, but you will see it in the near future. So there's always that chance. But again, you know, it could be a flashback. It could be anything. It could be season 2 of Tales of the Jedi. You know, who knows? But you know, if you're bringing in that character and you're doing that animation style, you have to have Matt Lanter involved in some way.
Yeah.
So here's hoping. Here's hope.
Good stuff though this week, guys, and the week before, and I'm sure there's a lot more good stuff to come.
Yeah.
Man, such a great episode. We can't wait till next week. You can find us on X for everyone that is listening to us on there. Thank you so much. You can find us on YouTube at Star Wars Stuff Podcast. We're on Instagram now. Again, we have a new account. It's called at Star Wars Stuff Pod. So please go follow that. Please. And we're actually doing a giveaway. We will announce that tonight on there. So stay tuned for that. And then another one that will lead into the end of that will be at the series finale of the Bad Batch. So we'll talk about that. And it's going to be, I think we decided 2 big prizes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Cap will be able to deliver. But,
whoa, we gonna fight.
So so stay tuned for that. And then you can also go on Patreon. Thank you for everyone that listens to us on Patreon. You can find us on patreon.com at Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187. You can also find us on TikTok. Search Star Wars Stuff Podcast. You can email us at starwarsstuffpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook, Star Wars Stuff Group, or Star Wars Stuff Podcast page. We also are on Twitch, which tomorrow is when the classic Star Wars Battlefront collection is coming to PlayStation. Excited for that because they're turning in the online servers. So we'll definitely be on Twitch tomorrow. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome.
And then please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. 5 stars. Please give us your reviews. We love hearing from you. And please go on our website, StarWarsStuffPodcast.com. Again, we love you all. Thank you so much for, just listening and enjoying us nerd out every week. We love you all. May the Force be with you. Come on, guys. Come on.
Always.
Always.
Yeah.
Good job.
Woo.